Hello guys, Blagaga here, and today I want to talk about the upcoming ban list. So we're still waiting for the ban list, and I would guess that it maybe comes out at the start of March. But we also could get information about the ban list in around 5 days, because that's where the next Shonen Jump comes out, and where a lot of people wait for the Shonen Jump, because there are a lot of different informations that could be in this version of the Shonen Jump. So I want to take my last chance and actually give you this video. So let's start with one of the most obvious picks, Elder Entity Norton. A lot of people think that Norton gets banned simply because Konami just gave us the new fusion monster, the ship monster of Theseus, and together with the ship monster, instant fusion would be a little bit too strong, so they would decide to ban Norton. I think this could definitely be right. Norton could definitely get banned. It wouldn't surprise me at all at this point. Next up we have another really popular card that a lot of people actually want to get banned. And I personally also want this to happen because I absolutely hate this card, Vanity's Emptiness. The main reason why this card could get banned now is because of the True Draco, True Kings that come out in the next set. And I think True Dracos could be really dangerous to turn off your floodgate at will, and that's really powerful. So my guess could be that we actually see this card getting banned because of True Dracos. Next off we have probably the strongest Pendulum monster available right now, Magispectre Unicorn Corinne. At the weekend I was on the sneak peek and I was playing with my Metal Force deck, and again, whenever I played and this card hit the field, I won. It's just that simple. You can play against ABC, you can play against other popular decks like DDDs. This card just shuts them down. It's really dangerous. And even though it would weaken my Metal Force deck, I kinda am for a ban of this card. It's simply too powerful. Being indestructible, not targetable, and having this ridiculously powerful bounce effect, it's just a little bit too crazy for this card. Now we come to a really interesting pick, ixtapa Invoker. A lot of people talk about this card and if it could get banned. I have to actually say I don't think that ixtapa Invoker gets banned. Even if Terradome doesn't get hit, I don't think that Invoker will get banned. Invoker enables some combo plays. I would actually not put Invoker on a ban list. I think it's just a little bit overhyped, especially if we haven't seen any results from Zodiac so far or any results from the upcoming YCSs. It's, in my opinion at least, just too much to just ban this card just because you have seen like 2 or 3 videos on YouTube where people just got a little bit lucky and went off. Next up, a card that I actually made an entire video on if it could get banned, and that's Bahamut Shark. I actually changed my opinion a little bit on this card because it's actually not wise to ban this card. Instead, there's another possible way to hit certain decks like Mermals, Toad Heroes and Paleozoics at once without banning a card. But again, when we talk about the limitations, I get into this later, but at the current point I feel like this card is close to being ban-worthy, but it currently doesn't make sense. There's a different approach that you should take. Last but not least, I want to talk about Anti-Spell Fragrance. I think this card could definitely get banned for several reasons. First of all, True Dracos again can turn this card off by just tripling it, which is overpowered. Also in the next set, Maximum Crisis, we get Eternal Nightmares. And Eternal Nightmares, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Dimensional Barrier, Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, and maybe some other trap cards are just too much for Pendulums to handle at the current point. That's also why you don't see any Pendulum players at the current point in the entire game, besides maybe some Metal Force, because there are way too many different trap cards around that you cannot counter. You cannot counter all of them. A Dimensional Barrier and then a continuous one, then a counter trap. You cannot prepare for every single one. If your opponent has like 1 or 2 of them at a starting hand, that you normally just lose. And that's really a big problem. So I think, especially with Eternal Nightmares coming out, that this card could get banned, and Eternal Nightmares could replace this card. If you don't know what Eternal Nightmares does, it's a ridiculously powerful continuous trap card that lets you destroy face-up spell trap cards for 1000 life points, and you can activate this as often in a turn that you want, but not in the same chain. And I think that they at least will ban anti-spell, because it's a little bit too much at the current point against Pendulums and other decks. Like, they really overdid it, and I think this could get banned. Also my personal wish, as I mentioned. I hate this card. Now let's talk about possible limitations. So first of all, people think that Dimensional Barrier gets hit, but again, look at Solemn Strike. What happened to Solemn Strike? They didn't touch Solemn Strike, especially because it's a secret rare, and Dimensional Barrier is also a secret rare. I don't think they will hit this card, especially with new game mechanics coming around and Code of the Duelists. I feel like this card could be already useless or only side deck worthy in like 6 months. When a new game mechanic comes out that revolves around extra deck, this card isn't as powerful as it was before, so it's mainly a side deck card. Next up is a sad guess of mine that Maxie actually gets limited or maybe even banned. But my guess would be a limitation, because in the Ancient Gear structure deck, which is coming in April, there's a copy of Maxie, and I think that now that Maxie is available in a structure deck for everybody, they will just limit Maxie. Just so that not everybody has access to Maxie and not a lot of games are decided by Maxie. They do this really often when a card is easily available for everyone, they just limit it or hit it somehow. I even kind of feel like this card could get banned. Simply because decks that like to special summon a lot are always gonna have a really big problem against Maxie in general. But that's just a weird guess that I have. I could definitely be wrong. I actually hope that I'm wrong, but it would actually kind of make sense for them to limit Maxie now. Next up is a card that I think we could all agree should get limited. Omega. At the current point in time, you don't see a lot of Omega decks being around. It's like everybody forgot about this card, kind of like with Cosmo, but it will come back, and Omega is just too good as a card, and it's just so abusable. I think this card should just get limited, so that we don't have to deal with hand loops in the first turn. And then my guess how Zodiacs get hit is like in the OCG with Fire Formation Tanky. I really don't think they're gonna hit one of the new cards like the Barrage or the Momo Red. They just gonna focus on the older cards that are used in the deck, and I think that Fire Formation Tanky is one of them that they just will get hit or limit. Kinda like Reinforcement of the Army, they just limit this card and that's enough. But I don't see them in any way different than hitting Tanky, hitting Zodiacs at the current point in time. And then of course we have to talk about one of the strongest decks at the current point in time, ABCs. I already talked about how they would hit Metal Force by just banning Measure Spectre, Unicorn, Kirin. And my guess, for example, is that DDDs also don't get hit just because the deck is just introduced. And maybe semi-limits Swirl Slime. But when it comes to other strong decks at the current point, there's definitely ABC. A semi-limitation of both of them, or a limitation of maybe Union Hanger, or semi-limitation of ABC Dragon Buster seems logic to me. My personal guess would be just that Union Hanger gets limited. So next up we have, of course, Totally Awesome. Yeah, I still had that name, but we have to talk about it anyway. So Totally Awesome is probably a better hit than Bahamut Shark because it actually hurts 3 different decks at once. And it's wise to actually limit this card so that the third effect of this card doesn't come through. You can only use a second negation effect. and then it also is weakened by the fact that Norton is very likely to get banned. So I think that a ban of Norton and limitation of Toad is enough, and that will definitely reduce the power of Barmouth Shark. And this is also the way that they will limit Paleozoics, by just limited Toad, so that they have to use the last effect of the Toad to put it back into the extra deck, and they cannot make additional pluses out of it. So this is definitely a way that everybody would be cool with. Instead of banning Barmouth Shark and Paleozoics basically don't get hit at all. That would also be stupid, especially considering how powerful the deck is. Yeah, this is, in my opinion, the most likely pick. So now we have to talk about a card, of course, that comes back from the ban list, and I think this card is very likely gonna be Sangan. It got an errata. If you want to check out the difference between the old Sangan and the new one, I'll link down in the description a video that I did like half a year ago about the errata of Sangan. I think it was in Rivals of the Pharaoh, where this card got a reprint and a new card text, so it would be finally time for this card to get back. Especially you cannot abuse it anymore. Again, for further details, check the description and the video in the description about Sangan. You see every single detail that it changed and my opinion on the new Sangan. And then last but not least, we have to talk about our favorite level 3 monster right now, Speedroid Terrortop. There is a possibility that they will hit Burning Abyss and maybe even Zodiacs at once by limiting this card. But to be honest with you, it's kind of like Dante, the Dante effect. This card just stays at 3 copies for forever. It wouldn't surprise me at this point. It's kind of like Dante. Everybody would expect this card to get hit, and it doesn't get hit at all. When it comes to semi-limitations and unlimitations, I just want to point out a few cards very quickly, because it's not as interesting as the limitations or the bans. So first of all, Insector Hornet. It could definitely come back finally at 3 copies, or at least be semi-limited. I mean, it wouldn't change a thing. Like, come on Konami, just do it. Then also Compulsory Evacuation Device and Torrential Tribute. Those are also 2 cards that in my opinion could come back and just be decent cards in upcoming format. But I have to say that I'm pretty sure, but I'm not really sure about Compulse, because again, we don't know anything about upcoming mechanic. If it's some sort of extra deck mechanic, it's wise to keep Compulse at 1. But Torrential Tribute, especially considering how good it could be in the upcoming format, could make a comeback and could actually see a lot of play. So Konami kind of likes to do this, to bring back cards when they would be actually good again, or if decks gets additional cards, they like to bring back cards. Makes the risk bigger that a card again would get limited, but I think that Torrential Tribute is way too outdated. It's just good in the upcoming format, that's it. And then last but not least, when it comes to the unlimitations, there are 2 cards that in my opinion should go to 3 copies. First of all, Thunder King Ryo. Just move to 2 in the last ban list, again would make sense if it finally is unlimited again. And the same thing with Wind Up Magician. I mean, they've seen that Wind Up didn't have any sort of success lately, so bringing back Wind Up Magician at the unlimited status would make a lot of sense. So that's it for my ban list discussion, my personal opinion. Also some guesses, both mixed into one video. Let me know what you think about my guesses. If I missed a really important card, what card would you like to see get banned? And yeah, just some interesting stuff about upcoming ban list. Write it down in the comments, and till next time, bye.